Previously on AFTN.
I wanted to do that when I was down at Copa America, and Messi was coming out, and folk were like, Messi, one question, just one question. And I wanted to go, would you like a chocolate digestive, Lionel? Hello and welcome. It's another episode of the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, broadcasting from the unceded Musqueam territory at the University of British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Joe Deasy.
Joe, he had the easy job doing the preview podcast. He got to look forward to games. We felt that wasn't fair. We wanted to make his life miserable. Let's get him to do an aftermath of a game. We will also be joined by Zach. He is on his way here. He's just running a little bit late, but he will be joining us. I think he just wants to avoid having to talk about the KC game at the weekend.
Yeah, I need to vent a little bit, too positive on the preview cast, and Zach is going with the avoidance technique, I think.
Definitely. So
I wonder if he watched it a second time or not.
I don't know, but he was working on Friday night. If anyone read my Twitter feed, I tweeted this out, but he was working on Friday. So it had got to half time, and I just sent him a tweet going, "Oh, can't this be over at the half?" And it's like, "That bad?" ? I was like, "Oh, you're not watching?" He's like, "No, working." I went, "Do you want to know what's happened?" And he said, "Yeah." So I told him, and he thought it was on the wind-up. He's like, "Oh yeah, very good." I was like, "No, this has really happened."
And there was 8 minutes of added time, so that happened.
Yeah.
I was stuck in traffic, so I listened to the radio broadcast.
Well, I listened to the first 10 minutes on the radio as well. That was enjoyable.
Yeah.
Traffic was probably less frustrating than the match itself.
No, it was, yeah.
I was coming home with fish and chips.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, it's this podcast has ruined my diet. It's just chocolate digestives and fish and chips non-stop for me. I got home. I literally switched on the telly just as Russell's ball hit the back of the net, and I was like, oh. And then I couldn't work out who had the biggest battering, my Haddock or the Whitecaps. I think it was the Whitecaps, though. But we'll kick things off since Joe's here. If you listen to the preview podcast, he does his fun word games and complete the sentence stuff. So we're going to do that, but a little bit different. We're going to get you to describe the Whitecaps' performance in KC as a breakfast cereal. If you were to do that, what breakfast cereal would it be? I'm going to go with Special K. Not for Kendall Waston, because he wasn't so special on this one, but Special K. I mean, it looks like it's going to get the job done for you, like you lose weight, but it just leaves you wanting in the end, and for me, that's the Whitecaps.
I'm very excitable when I go shopping, and any kind of nice box really catches my eye. And a few weeks ago, I saw Reese Puffs. I don't know if you guys have had these before.
No, had them.
So they're Reese's Pieces breakfast cereal. And they're in a nice orange box, very colourful, and I was really excited. I love Reese's Pieces. So I got them. The box looks fantastic. I was so excited. And it's still sitting in my pantry. I haven't touched it since having that first bowl.
It's just too much?
They let me down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say Rice Krispies. Make a lot of noise. But then end up doing nothing at the end. Just a bowl of soggy rice.
Soggy,
soggy rice.
Soggy and a disappointment. Now, we thought the performance against RSL a couple of weeks ago was bad. Last week, I thought LAFC's performance was bad. Zach didn't. No, he said on second watching he was a bit more optimistic about it. I still don't feel that way. I think that was terrible. LAFC, though, a good side. RSL, not a good side. So probably RSL was worse than LAFC. Now, Robbo said lessons would be learned. Clearly no one attended those classes. He said we'd see a response, and we got a response. Not quite sure what it was, but we got a response.
In the wrong direction, the response.
And I think the KC was now the worst of all the 3 of those games, but I would even go as far to say that if you look back in our 8 seasons in MLS so far, I can't think of a worst performance ever than that game against KC.
Especially the way it broke down, the way everybody just, lost it. It's like...
we've been outplayed, we've been hammered.
In every sense.
Yeah.
I remember a game against DC United in the first year. That was pretty bad. And it spelled the end for Jay Nolly.
Yeah.
That was a pretty bad one.
Maybe 4. I mean,
4-0,
this is our biggest ever defeat.
Is it?
In terms of disappointment, the playoff defeat to Portland might
just
much
for expectations.
As much as a build-up, because they marketed that so much,
Yeah.
and it was a frenzy inside the stadium.
Yeah, it was.
The performance just didn't match that. But in terms of just 90 minutes in isolation, I think this is definitely probably the worst I can remember anyway.
I wanted KC to get a couple more goals just so we would have the biggest ever defeat in MLS history.
Well, they could have.
Make a name for yourself.
If it wasn't for Marinovic, it could have been.
Was
easily.
it 7 is the biggest defeat?
It's 7. There's 3 7-0 games and 1 8-1 game.
When was the last 7-0?
Oh, I can't remember. I'll look that up.
Because it might have been back when the league wasn't so equal.
But when it was full of crappy teams that couldn't compete.
Tampa Bay and all those other teams. Did anybody ask you what time it was at any time during the game?
I was going to tweet out what time is it, but I really could not be bothered with everyone tweeting back, time for Robbo to go, and it's like I thought my Twitter would break.
Is the answer 7-2 Kansas City or 6-2 Kansas City?
5 past Marinovic. Oh no, it's 6 past Marinovic. At least I didn't get to 10 past Marinovic.
Yeah,
I've had a weekend of seeing goals. Those goals on Friday night, saw 2 Provincial Cup games rather over the weekend. Saturday 7 goals. Today I saw a 6-0 game. Saturday night as well there was a double sending off. Like buses, you wait for them, and then 2 games in a row you see a double sending off.
Yeah.
Both of the same team as well. So, but we'll start by talking about the KC game and the lineup and formation. Now,
surprising lineup.
Yeah, we've wanted a more attack-minded lineup. People have said they want more entertainment, so Robbo went for that. He went with 2 strikers, which I said was my dream, to have a 2-striker formation. Turned into a nightmare.
But was it the right time to do it against one of the better teams in the league?
It was the wrong team to do it against.
Well, I mean, Joe wrote a good piece that went up tonight on Sunday. You'll see it on AFTN.ca, and just talking about how doomed to failure, really, with going with that.
Yeah, I think the key was that we played it against a 4-3-3. I'd be a fan of seeing that formation again, even with similar personnel in similar roles. It's just that SKC play with a 4-3-3, and their wide players are very, very wide. And our outlet forwards this season has been Davies mainly, playing if he's in the left wing or if he's in the left wing back, either way. And because he was asked to defend Russell, who was outstanding, there was no avenue forward, right? And Blundell was the only person who could really create anything, and then he got hooked, right? I just think for the formation matchup, it was the wrong time to do it. I applaud the desire to get 2 strikers onto the field, but there was also a problem with the midfield being too narrow, and that left lots and lots of space in the wide midfield areas, like the kind of area that Madranda scored the 3rd goal, which we'll get to. The reason he had so much time was because the midfield, they weren't picking people up properly, and I kept saying in the first half an hour they were outnumbered, even though it was 3-on-3. The spaces, they just weren't, the roles weren't being used properly. I think. Well,
at one point, KC were happy just to leave 2 men back. That's how impotent they thought that the Caps were. It's like, fine, just leave 2 guys back there.
Yeah, and playing Shea up front, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and he disappeared.
Yeah,
I watched the first half back again this morning because I wanted to see a couple of things for this show, and I'm into masochism, obviously. I just did not notice Shea. Mm-hmm. He was just invisible.
Maybe he needs to be on the wing, or else he will just not be able to track back because he feels like it's not important at that point. It seems
it was just
maybe play him at left wing back instead of Davies. It might have been better.
That to me makes a way more sense.
But the only problem is he might pout then. He might get a pouting Breck Shea, whereas
and actually in
Because he wasn't very happy in Orlando doing that.
In hindsight, him against Russell would have been probably worse than it was. Yeah.
I mean, we touched on this last week. Does this just show us that we're a defence-minded team when we try and flick that switch and try and be attacking? We just can't do it. The players are just so in the mindset that they just can't get any offense going.
But the problem is, I think while you're saying we're defense-minded, I think we switch off way too much.
Well, they weren't set up to succeed with the formation.
No.
I don't think there was even a chance. If it was the 4-1-4-1 that we usually see away from home, it could have been a different story. You know?
But what do you think Robbo was thinking then? I mean, you're going up against a KC team that's been banging the goals in this year. Mm-hmm. And I think they've had half the goals so far in these opening games that they got in all of last year. So they're in form, they're scoring goals. Was this just foolishness, or did he think they would try and really catch KC by surprise? Or did he feel the need to go out and say, look, I'm going to put an entertaining team out there. You say I don't, here we go.
I think in setting up the team in that formation, I can see why a coach would think that would work. On paper, it's fine. It's just that it was implemented improperly, I should say. Like the wing backs should have had a lot more license to go forward, but in doing that, they needed to have more defensive stability that just wasn't there. I think that was really the main problem, and it was a move to get more attackers onto the field. You had Reina, Blundell, and Shea. If Kamara was fit, I think it would have been Kamara instead of Shea, which could have been a different story. And Reina and Blundell did have a couple of nice moments.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how well they linked up pre-season. They got a number of goals and assists between just the two of them. And then it started off great. Blundell played Reina in. You thought that Reina should have put the ball in the net. I mean, you can praise Melia for a great recovery and a great save. But when you see the angle from behind, Reina tries to go around him and then put it to the back post.
When he should have done the near post. Yeah.
If he does the near post, Melia has not got a chance of saving that.
Yeah.
And I do feel that Jordi Reina last year would have tucked that one away.
Mm-hmm. He went around the goal. He did the hard part well. Yeah. It's a cliche. He did the hard part really well.
And he looked good doing that.
Yeah. But I mean, Melia should be praised for recovering
the through ball from Blundell was fantastic.
I was quickly trying to rack my brains and think if I could think of a better pass so far this season. We don't play those splitting kind of passes. Not since Pedro Morales do we.
I think Kamara had a really nice pass, if I'm not mistaken, earlier this year to somebody. I can't remember who though. I don't know if it ended up being a goal.
He did a nice one between two players to Davies when he handled it and it got called back.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a nice
I think there was one other one at home,
but as far as vision, right? In my mind, Blundell is still an unknown quantity. We've seen him in preseason, but that's not really.
And they talked about how much. It talked about how much chemistry he had with Reina too in that preseason couple games.
I was going to have to wait a couple of games before they could play together again.
I mean, we did our usual Twitter ranking and asked some questions as well. And one of the questions was, did Reina's miss make any difference to the end result?
Yeah, and we got some response for that, obviously. And for people, okay, first of all, not sure, 25%.
Fair enough, really. I think I voted for not sure.
No, which was the big winner. Not big winner, but big winner, 43%. And yes was 32%. So kind of split there.
That's way closer than I thought it would be.
I thought a lot of people would have been negative and just said, no, it doesn't make no difference.
That's interesting.
But if you think of it, if they had scored, would have they just sat back and absorbed the pressure and been better doing that? But I don't know if they would have been able to.
The tactical mismatch was there.
Maybe he would have switched it up then and
he might have
rotated people around.
Well, the only reason it wasn't so bad was because it took Russell 10 minutes to get into the game.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would have been that disaster would have unfolded earlier, I think.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw the lineup on Twitter, I actually thought it was 4 at the back, and I thought Juarez was in at right back. And then when I found out it wasn't, and then I'm looking at it, it's like, but it was an encouraging lineup. I mean,
he's not going to play right back. He rearranged the kitchen. He's not going to. They're not.
But you know that. You know it's bad when the 4-3-1 almost looked better than the 3-4-1.
Well, when it worked out, it was a 4-3-1. It was just a kind of big circle of folk at one point. We'll come at that.
It's called the Christmas tree formation.
Yeah. But I mean, we talked if the Whitecaps were a breakfast cereal, what would they be? Well, Johnny Russell became a serial killer in that case because he ran the show. It was all downhill from the Caps after that. 2 goals. First one in the 10th minute after Reina was picked about 20-25 yards from goal. It was a nice passing move. It went from left wing to right to Russell on the edge of the box in about 5 passes. But watching it back, Russell was untracked, unmarked in the whole build-up. And he's been dangerous all year. So, I mean, why would you let a guy like that go? We talked about his danger. We had him interviewed as well on the show. Great chat. One of my favourite chats of the year so far. Mm-hmm. But why would you give a guy like that so much room?
Yeah, Gideon pointed it out on the preview show about how dangerous he could be, and he's been amazing so far. This season.
I've had I had him 4 years ago on the team, and he led the championship league in scoring on FIFA 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was
Football Manager.
No, FIFA 18. I don't go that far.
This is a guy that can't get into the Scotland setup
for
about 3 years, and we're making him look like world class.
But he should be good enough to play for Scotland, no?
I think he should.
Maybe now.
I think he will be. And he said in our interview that no one's contacted him, but he would hope if he does well, he'll get called back into it.
Yeah, well, Kenny
and
Miller
did,
and
stuff like that. But I just don't understand.
But do you think for that goal? Like that. Do you think it was for me? It was either the backline dropped way too back, or the midfielders didn't push into the box and try to cover up those holes.
I blame the midfielders. I think
I thought Felipe was way out there.
So I think it should have been Tybert instead of Felipe. I don't know why. For sure. I don't know why there's this obligation to play Felipe. To be honest, Tybert is one of the few players who's on form, and he's one of the few. Now that Ghazal's back.
Well, we got a comment this week from one of our listeners saying they don't understand the whole Tybert love fest that we're doing.
Really? Well, some people are just like you were able to change your stripes, but some people won't be able to for a while.
Tybert does he does the unpraised kind of work quite well, you know? Like
the stuff you don't see.
Well, he still has his faults. He doesn't play enough forward balls.
Yeah, but the DM role is not a sexy role. If you're doing it right, you shouldn't be noticed.
But then a player like Ghazal can make it a lot more.
Yeah, his long legs
effective.
Draw attention to himself though as well, because there's a couple of tackles he goes into that you really, really notice him.
Yeah. I think because we played an attacking lineup, I think to balance it out, I think Felipe should have been replaced with Tybert.
Yeah.
Just because Tybert will cover the ground and cover the spaces, and he'll close down a lot earlier. So that's what I thought should have happened.
Caps nearly tied it up right away after Russell's goal. Davies, he kind of left the KC players in his wake, powered forward. Support wasn't great, cross wasn't great either. But then Russell got his second, great solo effort. All of a sudden, the Caps look dead and buried. It's only 16 minutes in. Defensive play again, simply horrible. Russell acres a room, gets the ball. A couple of KC players on that left side were in tons of space. I think there's 3 altogether. Juarez gave about 10 yards to him, and then he couldn't really commit by that point because he'd have got skinned. But then Russell made it look so easy, just waltzed past him, cut inside, fired home, deflected off Waston. Horrible defensive play.
I think Johnny Russell had recognised at that point that Juarez is not a good wing back.
Yeah, sense blood.
Yeah, so he switched over. Even though he had success on the other side, he knew where the next goal was coming from.
Yeah, and the thing is people are complaining about Juarez not being able. He's not a midfielder. He's a right back. He definitely proved he wasn't a right back either.
Yeah, although I think Davies though has shown that he's not a good left back either. There's a few defensive things the last couple of games he's been burned on.
I couldn't understand why, if they were going to do that position, why not put Ghazal as one of your 3 in the back? He doesn't have to do as much running, and then you put De Jong on the left, and he could be actually firing some stuff. And maybe put Davies in the middle.
Well, De Jong's a perfectly functional wing back or left back.
And Robbo, like every time he talked at the start of the season about going 3 at the back, he always mentioned about having De Jong as one of those 3. And it was always something I found out.
I haven't seen why that's.
No.
He did mention on another radio station that he liked Davies, the fact that Davies needed to run from the back or something like that. He liked running from the back and getting more of a run.
That has been an avenue forward, but
you can.
It gives him more pitch to run on. I know, and get his speed up.
But I understand that. But when he plays left mid or left wing or whatever you want, he always tracks back, so he's going to have that space to run up anyways.
Think about it, think about when you're playing against a 4-3-3, okay, and Davies is the left wing back. So in front of Davies, if he's doing his job right, is the right winger for Kansas City, the right midfielder for Kansas City, and the right back for Kansas City. You want Davies to beat 3 players in order to generate any offense.
Yeah.
He can beat 2, no problem. When I used to coach in Richmond Soccer, I would tell the players, if you're playing against an amazing player, get 2 bodies in front of him, and by the 3rd one, he'll lose control of the ball. And that's just what's going to happen. It happens at all levels.
Yeah, we've seen it a lot with Davies. We've seen it a lot with Kikuta Mane when he was here. Caps nearly made it 2-1. Blundell had a great chance, first time volley from a Reina pass again that just went past the post. And then the third goal. Jimmy Medranda fired home a rocket. Marinovic hardly moved.
It was a great shot from a weird
I'm
angle.
still really torn as to how much blame I put on Marinovic for it.
I think he just caught him off. I don't think he expected that shot at all to come from that spot. Maybe it was just
a top keeper has to at least get a hand on that, though.
The way it was moving in the air is the thing.
It dipped. There's a video from one of the fans that was doing the rounds on Twitter from behind the shot, and it does curl and dip. Yeah. But it then also shows you that
it's closer to
Marinovic should have possibly. Yeah. Marinovic had a good chance to at least get a hand up. I think he was just caught out.
I think sometimes when that shot comes in from that angle and at that speed, that curve, it just freezes the keepers.
I was expecting a cross, not a shot.
Yeah.
When he wound out for that.
It could have been a YP Lee thing where it was supposed to be a cross.
Beautiful goal, though. I mean, you've got to give him that.
But
struck with.
That happened because the midfield was too narrow.
Yeah.
So the wing back couldn't push up because he was taking care of the winger, and the midfielder, for some reason, didn't come out to close it down.
Then we've got to what everyone's talking about. The mass brawl, the melee. We'll start it off with Waston's tackle. Poor, late. When I first saw the replay, I didn't think he actually touched Espinosa. Neither did Pete Shard in the commentary. Mm-hmm. I've seen it slowed down. I've seen some stills, and it does seem to show that he raked his studs on him. Either way, it was a rash tackle. But in discipline again from Waston.
And he reacted...
Yeah, the aftermath as well showed a lot of indiscipline as well as he's standing over Espinosa, started the brawl. He was also in the ref's face after the red cards, which he was maybe lucky not to pick up a second yellow for that. But if you're talking about lack of discipline, the Cats lost the plot.
Yeah.
Russell flew in. He did instigate stuff. You could also argue he was lucky not to see a red himself because he was doing a bit of shoving. But the shoves were just in the chest.
Yeah,
that was the difference.
That was the difference.
The thing with VAR now is they have to evaluate individual actions that happen. And Russell didn't do anything, I think. Not that I saw that deserved a red card. He got in people's faces and he got a yellow, which is normal. But as far as red cardable actions go, I think the right decisions were made.
Yeah, no excuse for Reina or Juarez. Reina throws Russell to the ground. Juarez had a hand twice in Russell's face once before he's thrown to the ground. Yeah. And I noticed Russell had a big kind of puff under his left eye, which I don't know if he had the whole game or if that was just because he got stuff in his face. But, I mean, Juarez, well, both of them are international players, as in they play for the national teams. They're experienced guys. You know what you can and can't do. And I love a player that's got a bit of bite, but you know VAR's reviewing everything.
Yeah, that's just
rush of blood to your head, I know, I get all that. De Jong did push Juarez into Russell, but
no,
it actually said he was sent off for foul and abusive language as well.
No, it wasn't. Well, officially on the MLS site, it said review. That's all it said.
All right.
Which
means
it was
point
a
on
VAR
Friday night,
review.
it did say foul and abusive language.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a mistake.
No, there was definitely hands to the face for him.
They did enough to get red cards.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both
way.
deserving. And let's just, before we round this section off, let's just quickly talk about VAR. Waston's tackle, 35 minutes, 17 seconds. Stott finally went to watch the video, 37:57, so over 2.5 minutes later. Then it was 39:17 before he brought the red cards out. A full 4 minutes after everything had kicked off. Too long? Does it matter if you reach the right decision in the end?
VAR is a really big subject because in different countries it's being used differently. And at the World Cup they're using it completely differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the make or break for VAR. So that's like I think at the World
Cup,
because
they'll have a lot more eyes on it.
The EPL's already put it on hold for another season.
Well,
so.
in the World Cup they're going to have one main VAR and then 2 assistant VARs who are going to inform the main VAR in case he misses anything. And then I think a couple of other technicians. And then they have extra cameras that the broadcasters don't have and things like that. So I think that'll be, like, we'll look back on that as the breaking point for VAR or not.
But is it the former Italian ref?
Pierluigi Collina.
Yeah, is he in charge of it or something?
He's in UEFA. He's in charge of assigning referees for the Champions League.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure if he has a role in the
I think
World
he
Cup.
might have in the World Cup. I almost remember seeing pictures of him in that articles.
He was fantastic.
I'm also worried that the Caps are going to get fines for
Mass
confrontation and the fact that the players didn't leave the pitch right away.
And
they didn't leave the pitch to the 41-minute mark, so it's 6 minutes after the initial tackle.
And the coach was Stuart Kerr.
Yeah, scare. We'll talk about the coaches and their discipline in part 2. We'll just round this section off. Down to 9. Down 3 goals. What else could go wrong? Oh, yeah, you give a penalty up with an absolutely stupid tackle from De Jong.
The clearest penalty I've ever seen, I think.
And, I mean, Marinovic, great save. Made a little bit of amends maybe for some stuff.
I think with De Jong,
highlight.
I think De Jong, because he's playing more centrally, he wasn't used to. He thought he could do that tackle when he's playing left back, and maybe he was confused there
in the wrong space,
in the wrong spacing and everything. Like
well, it was a first half to forget. Could the second half get any better? Well, we all know the answer, but we'll talk about that and a few other things after this.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
In constant sorrow all through his days, I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble all my days. I bid farewell to old Kentucky.
Welcome back. You are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. Tell us what that song was, Steve.
that was from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the movie. I'm a man of constant sorrow.
By
Soggy Bottom Boys.
Oh. But we are joined now in the studio, talking of soggy bottoms. He's so excited to be here. It's Zachary Meisenheimer.
I'm always excited to be here.
You missed us describing the Whitecaps as a breakfast cereal.
I was listening.
Well, give us your breakfast cereal.
You're never
going to
believe
the
this.
Whitecaps.
You're never going to believe this. Totally honest. I was listening to the show on the way in, and my first thought was the exact same as Joe Deasy.
Reese Puffs.
The Reese peanut butter one, because it's like it's you think, oh, it's going to be, away from home. The Whitecaps have been really good. You get excited, and then you eat it, and it leads to diabetes, or like it makes you not feel well.
We are not saying that Reese's Puffs.
No, but
Or the Whitecaps.
It's very sugary. It leads to some disappointment, as you all talked about.
I know I had a lot of comfort eating after watching the game on Friday, so maybe it does.
You had what?
Comfort eating.
Oh yeah.
Well, you're here to talk about the less dramatic half, the less concerning half. I don't know. 3 goals in each half, but we'll keep the talk about the second half briefish because we've got so much other stuff to talk about. But first of all, I do want to talk about Russell's hat-trick goal. Now, I had a tweet, which I was just being facetious, when somebody had tweeted out saying, I wonder what the KC fans are going to get upset about from this game, because the KC fans, the last game, were quite irate. So I retweeted it just with a sarcastic comment of that they were going to be upset when VAR stopped Johnny Russell getting his double hat-trick. Wow, that was... I think if he'd stayed on, that would have possibly happened.
He got subbed off in the 60th minute, right?
No, I think it was before that, actually.
Might have been, but he had a hat-trick, and he was rested for the next game.
And he had a couple of chances in the first half where he could have had his third or fourth in that. And
was there some offsides as well?
Yeah, and he didn't... he had the ball in the net at one point. It was offside. And then he didn't take the penalty because he was
that was weird, because he was on
I'm
2
not
goals.
The penalty taker.
Yeah.
Loved that.
Well, that'll engage.
Stupid, but I loved it.
The fans will love him for that.
Yeah.
But in the back of his mind, he knew, I'm going to get a hat trick anyway. It's not going to make a difference who scores.
Kai Kamara shouting at the screen, "What are you doing?"
Exactly. I thought maybe Kyrie Shelton should have taken it because he needs a goal. I don't think he's scored since he moved to Kansas, and just confidence booster.
But he's contributing. He fits their style pretty well.
Yeah.
And the thing about Johnny Russell, which you guys were talking about a little bit in the first half, but also into the second half of the game, is he's like this tricksy kind of. He was everywhere.
Yeah.
And to me, that didn't really suit. Even though I was excited, I was not excited because I knew what had happened, but I was encouraged by the trying two up front with the 3 at the back and whatever. But a player who's so dynamic like that, he found the space, he found the holes, he found the pockets
look
really
at that
easily.
space that he got for his hat-trick goal. And I know you're down 2 players, but you're still defending that. He was just allowed to waltz through them.
From a set piece.
Yeah.
The second phase of a set piece, yeah.
I mean, that's something they're going to want to...
That was his best finish, though.
Yeah. And there was 2 more goals. We can go into them if you really want, but Marinovic kept the score down. Now, your team's got beat 6-0, and we're saying our keeper kept the score down. He had 7 saves. I still credit him with 8, but for some reason 1 wasn't given as a save. He kind of was at him. He touched it.
But usually that's good enough for a save.
Yeah, I mean, either way, he had more saves than goals that he let in, which you would want a keeper to do. But when he's let in 6 goals and he still had more saves, that just sums up everything about what went wrong with that defence.
Yeah, but even though he did make a number of saves, stopped a penalty, which was not a great penalty, but is it hard not to remember him for the 3rd goal?
Well, yeah, let's get your take on that. I mean, do you think he should have done better on that 3rd goal?
He'll think he should have done better.
Yeah.
He was caught leaning. It looked like an early kind of a deepish kind of cross was coming in, and Miranda, I think, I missed you guys talking about this part because I was coming in here, but I think he just saw him, and I'm just going to have a go because he's going to lean, and he caught him.
One of my favourite cross-come shots again.
No, that's the thing though. I don't think that's not what it was.
No,
it was.
he went for it.
It was he faked like a cross, if you will, and then smashed it. But so I think that's the picture I think most people remember of Marinic from the game. Unfortunately,
yeah.
And that's is it 2 weeks in a row or whatever? Where like there's one he wished he probably had back.
Yeah.
Could have kept it at 5-0.
I think Miranda just couldn't believe how much room he had, so might as well have a crack.
Maybe Jake should just call him Steve before every match and just get him riled up, get him ready to go.
I don't know, because someone said at training, I didn't get to train at all last week because I was working, but the week before, someone was like, "Hey, Stephen." I think that's worn its course.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No.
But Jake, of course, wasn't there. He was rested.
Yeah. The other 2 goals, do you want to say anything about them? I've blocked them from my memory. I didn't even watch them back when I was watching the rest of the game.
There were so many goals I can't actually remember.
I can't even remember what they were right now either.
The chest goal.
Chest.
Yeah.
And that was unfortunate.
He came on as a sub too.
Yes.
And that was unfortunate, right? That was, again, a deflected cross off of Aha.
Yeah.
And chest
when it's not your night, it's not your night.
You might as well let them score all the goals.
Yeah.
Aha actually looked okay, I thought.
Yeah, I know. He'll probably end up getting dropped, but I mean, he was the guy that was one of the better players.
Well, it was it was an unfortunate. He was trying to block the.
Bernie Beanie came on, and I would have given him man of the match because he kept holding the ball for at least 10 seconds and actually went by some players.
He beat 2 players and held the ball.
Yeah,
not bad.
He got past the halfway line.
Man of the match and your 4th or 5th favorite interview of the.
Yes. There's a shot that someone had put out on Twitter of Tim Melia just standing right in the middle of the KC half, just looking forlornly, and there's not a Whitecaps player anywhere near him.
Well,
There's one just made it into the corner of the picture.
The Kansas fans were cheering every time he touched the ball.
Yeah.
So like every 15 minutes they had a big cheer.
We always bring you our interviews with the gaffers. I don't have that this week because I could not find Peter Vermees's audio anywhere. For some weird reason, it's not on the KC site, it's not on their Instagram, it wasn't on Twitter or anything. So, we're not going to have Peter Vermees, but we are going to play you a little bit of what Robbo said, just because it's had a lot of comments, and I want to talk about a few things off it.
Yeah, very hard game. Obviously, there's fine moments in games. We started off very well. Fairly even, first 15 minutes, and then we concede, and then we're 3-0 down in 40 minutes. An incident then changes the game. We lose emotional control, and we have 2 players sent off, and then they score 3 goals in the second half. So not good enough, not acceptable, embarrassing. I let the players know, but we've got to brush ourselves down quickly because we've got a game on Friday.
What was said to the group after the match, and how will the team get through this?
We've got to stick together in times like this. It's easy when you're doing well and when things are against you, and I certainly think that everything went against us today, from the early miss to some of the refereeing decisions, but we didn't help ourselves. We lose 2 men in an incident which they started, but we've got to be better than that. We certainly have. And in the second half, we talk about maybe trying to stay in the game and then catch them on the counter. We set up that way by playing a 4-3-1 with our 9 men we had, and within 2 minutes we're lazy with our decision making and our detail, and we're 5-0 down before you know it. So then it becomes a game of will, mind, and just concentration. And the guys who were on the field at the end worked as hard as they could.
You quite often say no excuses, and that's obviously tonight's another example. No excuses.
No excuses. I don't make excuses any stage, any time. I put 11 players on the field today that could win the game, and I think they showed in the first 15 minutes that they were more than capable of doing it. Fine lines. The game's about fine lines, and we didn't get our details right in either box. You can blame deflections and things like that. I think it's lazy defending, and we didn't keep 11 men on the field. We have to do that, or the same is going to happen again.
So Robbo there with a few things, and that was his post-game thing for the media there. He also gave his regular interview on TSN Radio, where he was a lot more damning about it, I felt. But I think he was more hands up about how unacceptable it was on the radio. He did say there, though, not good enough, not acceptable, embarrassing. And he said, an incident then changes the game. It did not. It was 3-0 down when the melee happened and the players were sent off. And they were under the cosh way before that. You cannot at all attribute anything with the sending offs to do with the end result.
The game was embarrassing before the red card.
Just to provide a different perspective, right? It was 3-0. Things were not going well, right? But being down 3 goals to Kansas City, or being down multiple goals to Kansas City in the MLS era, has not meant that the game is over. And so you can say that they had one foot in the coffin or whatever, but to me, the game, that did, in fact, end the game. The game wasn't over.
They were 6 foot under and gasping for air.
But here's the thing.
In 2011, they came back from 3 goals to tie them.
Yeah.
At home,
I think it was 3-1 when they came back. But they I think that, I mean, for me, the turning point of the game is the best pass of the season we've seen so far from Tony to Jordy, and unfortunately, Jordy misses, and that for me is the turning point in the game.
But you have to bear in mind that the Caps haven't scored a goal now in 3 games. You expect them to score 3 goals in 60 minutes against one of the best teams in the West?
They're the best road team in MLS. Zach's got no answer for that one.
No, I think it's fair to say the game's not there. You still have to play, right? Sure, their form. You're right, Joe. Their form would not say that they could score 3.5 or 3 in.
When it went to 1,
60 minutes, but
I had my doubts they were going to get back into it. Then 2, I was like, yeah, that's it. I genuinely
at 1.
For me, it was after 3. For me, it was after 3. It was done. That's when I exited the car, still on the bridge, but in the traffic.
He didn't jump off. Now, his fine line shtick that we got there, I tweeted that out, knowing my Twitter would then explode when I tweeted out his quote. Some folk thought I'd made it up. Some folk maybe thought it was just my predictive text had come up with it. And for the audio that we played there, I was really tempted, I didn't have time to do this, to find one of his post-game things from last year, where he said very similar things, and just put that in and see if you could tell the difference. Now, Podcaps, one of the other Whitecaps podcasts, did a fun video on Twitter with his comments on the KC's goals that went down quite well with some folk, but he needs to stop saying the same stuff. And I think that's what's frustrating fans in a lot of regards as well. It's the same excuses. He says he doesn't make excuses. He does make excuses. And to come up with the same things, the fine lines things, and we'll brush ourselves down, we'll get a response. Fans are just not buying it anymore.
I think, like, post-game interviews and all that kind of stuff, do you guys really learn anything from those?
No.
Yeah.
It's not the time to ask him good questions.
Absolutely.
He's not going to give you good answers.
So, like, I can understand with the media training that that all the players have and that everyone who is associated with the Whitecaps would have. Like, I can understand that you would say basically nothing for a long time. So I think that's kind of where that comes from. But we're at a point where we demand some kind of answer to what's going on. And it's just so frustrating to hear, like you're saying, Michael, the same thing over and over again. And I've agreed with his fine line comments before when taken in isolation. This was not a fine lines game. This was, like, on every level, just outplayed, out-tacticked, out-performed, out everything. There was no excuse for what happened.
Is it fair to say that the fine line perspective can at least be tied to Jordy's miss? Like,
I know what he's meaning by it.
Yeah.
But when you've just watched your team, as Joe says, lose out on everything and completely outclassed, that's not the thing. It's like muscle memory. He just goes back and says it because he doesn't know what else to say. Is that your muscle memory going back to Russell Beresford's article? Oh, yes, from last week. I was like, what? Yeah, but it is. But this is a standard thing.
But
and we know that.
But he's not the only coach who does this. This is very typical of.
Oh yeah.
Of not all, maybe not all,
no.
but definitely many, or at least most coaches. This is how they talk.
I want him to bring slides, attack a freaking printer, and yeah. But I mean, we learned a lot of things from the match. We learned a lot of things about how good Johnny Russell was. One thing we did not learn, though, from watching Johnny Russell in that game, though, was, did he fancy a chocolate digestive?
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it sounds suggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
So if you're at home at night and you're wanting a hot beverage of choice, do you go for a tea, a coffee, or do you go for something else?
I'd go for a tea.
And are you a biscuit person?
Yeah.
And what would be your biscuit of choice, and are you a dunker?
Definitely a dunker. We don't do them over here though, which is the Maryland goodies.
Oh.
Cookie. We don't do them here, which is, they're pretty special.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Johnny, and good luck this season. And I'll probably see you when you come up to Vancouver later in the year.
Yeah, look forward to it. Appreciate that, man.
Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive, even though it sounds suggestive? Anyone fancy a chocolate digestive?
I had him down for a chocolate digestive. I was so disappointed he did not say that. But he was our first opposition player that we've done that section with. We hope to do a lot more. Looking forward to asking Zlatan about that.
Yeah, he's definitely a digestive man.
I don't know. In the UK we have lion bars. He's going to go for a lion bar.
Rich tea.
He was played in Italy quite a bit. Maybe we'll go with something Italian. Pastry.
I bought a really nice box of Italian biscuits from Bosa Foods the other day.
Panettone, that's Italian, right? Is that
yeah, he played in the 86 World Cup. He's got a couple of goals.
Red card too, I think.
But we'll round this section off by just talking about some of the players and how they did, very briefly, because I think we know. So it's time for our ranking. And once again, Steve, let people calm down a bit before we put the rankings out.
I thought it was appropriate.
Yes. And even more appropriate, when you first tweeted it out, you forgot the link to the survey. Yeah. Another missing link to do with the Whitecaps.
No, but I thought you were saying put it out Saturday night. I figured there might be too many drunk people voting at that point, so I didn't want to do it then. Okay, so we'll start from the bottom. And they are all starters. None of the substitutes, usually substitutes get lost or whatever, but this time definitely the substitutes weren't there. Full bottom three, Efrain Juarez was the bottom, Jordi Reyna, the two red card brothers, and then Marcel de Jong was third from the bottom.
And probably for the penalty, I would think, yeah.
Probably. Top five, you got the two strikers, Blondell and Breck. Alphonso Davies was number 3. Ali Ghazal, number 4. And then one of the substitutes, Russell Tybert, number 5. And then the next two were substitutes as well.
Well, the interesting thing, like whoscored.com, I don't know if folk are familiar with that site. It's a great site for stats. They had 3 of the subs in the top 5 for their rankings. All 3 subs were in the top 5, and Marinovic was first.
Yeah.
So I think that just says
Not
it all.
only that, the lowest Kansas player was Kyrie Shelton.
Oh, I never looked at theirs.
And he had a higher ranking than Marinovic. So every Kansas player was ranked higher than any Caps player.
Well, you expect that in a 6-0
Yeah,
game.
it was 6-0. They had two guys sent off, played with, 50 minutes with 9 men.
But Shelton got taken off because he wasn't playing well for Kansas. Like, that's just the discrepancy between the two teams.
Why would you take somebody off in a
Right, but he was still on for part of the. He was still on for the goal. The first half of their goals.
Zach's added a bit of positivity to the show.
Any interest in preview podcasting?
So there's some other questions that we had.
Questions we're going to have every week now. I hope, hopefully not big need for them, but we'll do it every week. They have this kind of game. How many players get a passing grade? 0. 0 was up at 30%.
I put 1 for Ibini's dribble.
2 got 28%, and then 1 got 26%, and it got lower. 4 more, just 2%. And then where would the coaching staff rank in this? 15th, which would be the bottom, obviously, got 55%. And then the other 3, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 14, range from 12 to 17%. So not very many people happy with the coaching staff in this case again.
No. And yeah, some big talking points coming from the game. We're going to look at that in part 3. We're going to dig into discipline or the lack of, and a lot more beside. Don't want to beat a dead horse, but there is some very important things we need to talk about, and we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Jordan Much, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back. You are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. What was that music, Steve?
That was the theme song for the late, great Bruno Sammartino.
Another wrestler gone too soon.
82 years old.
Yeah, gone too soon.
That's from a TV show too, right?
No. Well, it sounds similar.
Like A-teamish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that was used in the 60s and 70s, I think. I think he was in the 60s mostly, 50s maybe a little bit.
I seem to remember from like the 80s. But
no, this theme song was used back then. Basically, 8-year champion, 8 straight years, sold out Madison Square Garden over 100 times, I think, and was 3-year champion again afterwards. 11 years in total. Interesting. The most interesting part of his story was he was in Italy during the World War II invasion. The family actually hid in the mountains. And his mother had to sneak back into the village every once in a while past Nazis in order to get food and stuff for them. And she'd be gone for like weeks or something like that while the kids were by themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really interesting life he had. Not interesting was.
Yeah. I would be happy just to talk about wrestling for this part of the show, but unfortunately we have to delve in again to the Whitecaps' woes. So this part's obviously going to be 5 hours. We'll kick it off. Discipline. The lack of. Robbo said that we lost emotional control. Feels a lot like 2016. And we saw how crap we were in 2016. Yeah, it's... These are, as I said, players that have played at international level. And I like players like Felipe and Juarez, who's got a bit of spirit, bit of fight in them, but they need to do it at the right time. They need to be sneaky, and in this day of VAR, it's kind of impossible to do that because everything's getting monitored, so you have to use your heads.
When you say 2016, the thing for me that's different is this feels like the first instant where things were not great in the discipline area, right? I mean, the Kendall sending off in Atlanta was null, null and
void, yeah.
Yeah, turned over by the league. So this is the first thing that's happened. So like 2016 felt like a bit of a difficult year on the whole. This seems like, or this is hopefully only one incident, and not hopefully a beginning of a trend.
True, but Juarez has felt like a red card waiting to happen all season.
He's getting used to the refereeing. He's getting used to. That was one of the things actually I did talk to him about after the LA game. Was just like, what do you think about the referees? Is it going to take some time to adjust to this? Is it whatever? And he
obviously had a great impact on him.
We're just having a conversation, but I mean his
Can he tone down? Can he rein it in though?
His sending off though, like. Again, he doesn't look like he's trying to strike him in the face.
But
he got his hands up,
face,
which is undisciplined, very fair. I don't think he's trying to strike him in the face. If you use your Pierluigi Collina test, his hand is open, right? His hand is not closed.
But it was his forearm. I think he knows what he's doing. And in a non-VAR world, he would never get that red card.
It's true.
So, it's a shove. It's a hit to the face disguised as a shove.
I think they forget about VAR, and they're used to playing the way that they play.
And he did it twice too.
Yeah,
so he knows what he's doing. I think.
Okay, that's a fair counter perspective. The thing is though, for me, in that whole incident is if you're going to use VAR in that way, I think even though it's not hands to the face, I think you have to send off Johnny Russell for not instigating, but taking the situation to another level. Because you can say
I think he thought he was going to get sent off.
Oh, I think so
there's
too.
a fantastic little bit. We were talking about this before we went on air. When after Reina gets the red card and Russell gets the yellow, he just walks past Reina and kind of shrugs his shoulders.
Yeah, because I think they were even talking about it on the broadcast.
I think if the rules were implemented properly, and we never see this happen, Russell would have gotten a yellow card for his first offence and then a yellow card for like what he did later on, and he would have gotten a red card. But we never see the two yellow thing. I've seen it like once, and I watch a lot of football. Like it never happens that happens.
Well,
that happens.
See, this was the confusing thing as well, because Waston got the yellow card, and then at some point, Stott shows another yellow card to someone who we don't know who it was. If you watch it, he throws a yellow card before he does the VAR review. I don't know who that was to.
Wasn't that for Kendall for the tackle?
No, he'd already booked him.
Oh, that was okay.
So I think that might even have been for Juarez, because he'd kind of seen what Juarez had done, and then he reviewed it and just changed it to a red.
If anything, he would have might have seen what Reina did.
I think Reina.
Oh, maybe
it was Jordy more. Yeah,
because Reina just grabbed the guy by the neck and threw him to the ground. That was really.
The fact is that their discipline was okay. I actually, listening to Zach talk there, you kind of changed my opinion about it, because I wasn't sure if this was a incident in isolation or a kind of a summary of how the players feel.
But I think it's the frustration that where they went overboard.
Agree,
because in a if that had happened in a 1-0 game or
it wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened.
But the question is, like, if the Caps keep playing badly, will it happen again?
Yeah.
Right? And I think it could. I think we've brought in a couple of players in the last few years who don't have the same mentality that like some of the good Robbo teams or the earlier Robbo teams have had. Like the siege mentality, like not all players buy into that.
Yeah.
And if you don't buy into that, you're just someone looking in from the outside, right? Which is the opposite of a siege mentality.
I was talking to Michael yesterday about that, and I was joking with him, saying that I thought maybe both of them wanted an early shower and they didn't realize what the other person had done. So that's why both of them went off. Like they were both looking to get out of that game as soon as possible.
Let's get off.
No, I do think though that this is part of what the coaching staff probably talks to them about in terms of it's us against the world.
We'll come to that. But before we come to that, I do want to talk about the coaching staff, because how much of this lack of discipline that we've seen over the last couple of years is set by the coaching staff. Stuart Kerr got sent off in the game on Friday night. How many coaches or how many times have we seen coaches sent off in the Robbo era? We've seen all four of them has been sent off at various times, some of them more than once. And it seems to be that other teams don't have this happening anywhere near as much as we do.
True. 2016, it felt especially like that. This is the first time this year. I'm okay with Stuart Kerr getting sent off. That's what I want.
I'm doing a bit of lip reading.
No, but that's what you want. You'd rather have him. Yeah, you'd rather have him than Robbo.
Oh yeah.
And so
Robbo got a warning.
Right. So I think he's standing up and saying, I'm guessing, I didn't read all the lips or didn't see everything he said, but I think he's saying, if you're sending both those guys off, Russell has to go too. And that's why he took the hit for the team or the coaching staff.
Yeah.
It was a much more shorter, expletive-laden, succinct comment he made.
And there are times, like, obviously, I'm not sure how often this happens in soccer/football, but in two other sports, baseball and basketball, there's been so many stories about the coach actually going to the referee, okay, you need to throw me out now. I need to send a message to my players. So they actually get thrown out on purpose in order to send a message to the players.
I'm positive Stuart Kerr wouldn't say that.
I'm sure that didn't happen there, but I'm saying the coaches sometimes do that.
When your coaches are screaming at the officials from the bench constantly and arguing with the fourth official, that has to carry over onto the pitch.
Oh, for sure. I think so.
Yeah, I believe that to be the case as well. Like, and the referees get tired of it too.
Yeah,
and that it never works.
We need a rugby style like where the referee has this discipline. I've watched those videos a couple of times. I always go back to them because they now come as recommended because I watch them so much. But it's the way they just talk to the players, and these are big guys, and they just shut up and they curl down and they like good little kids.
I totally agree with you. I wish the interactions between players and officials were the same as in egg chasing.
Yeah,
and just like with simulation. Something could be done about this, but those who are responsible for these kinds of things, haven't taken those steps.
We've had this problem comes from the top. There's been amateur referee organizations that have had strikes because they get treated so badly. Who I think was in Ontario. There was something referee, in Ontario. A referee got assaulted by some parent.
A teenage referee.
Yeah,
got assaulted by a parent.
Like a U13 game or something like that. Like the culture is just so toxic towards referee. Like who would want to be a referee?
Well, if anyone watches the video I put on YouTube of the provincial B Cup game from Saturday night, I mean the referee had a shocker, but I mean the abuse he was getting. But now we'll get into this whole kind of us v them mentality then. I don't mind it. I think it is good. I think it lights a fire in certain players. But, I mean, is it helping us or is it hindering us? I think it leads to these mass confrontations at times because players think the officials have it in for them. And they've had it drummed into them that the officials aren't good. Oh, my coach is saying that the officials have screwed us out of this game. And they'll see it themselves and think that. But, I mean, us against them, the siege mentality, it can backfire.
I think more, I don't think, my personal opinion, and obviously I'm not in the dressing room when they talk about this, I don't think it's about the referees itself. I think Robbo most likely uses maybe the media being against them and other teams in the league possibly because the league doesn't, qualify Canadian teams as being important or whatever. I think he uses more. I don't know if he uses referees.
I don't know, but I would think he would use the officials.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
I would think so too. But I would disagree with you, Michael. I don't think that leads to them saying, "Oh, okay, therefore I can get up in their face and do whatever I want." I think
no, he's not encouraging them to do that, but they're off the mindset that they're getting.
It does influence
over.
people.
Right, but
if I tell my kid that his teacher is a bonehead or something like that, you think my kid's gonna respect the teacher then? If I keep harping on how bad the teacher
who is this teacher?
No, it's nobody in particular.
The difference is your kid is of an age where they are more influenced by you than hopefully an adult is influenced by their adult coach.
Ms. Hicks and Ms. Cassim are great teachers.
But footballers, to counter that point, Zach, footballers are a very insulated environment, right? And they're fed information. Like some would say a lot of information, some would say not a lot of information, but. Like Michael was saying, they're constantly being given this rhetoric by Robbo or by the coaching staff. And I think if they did choose the referees as a target, but the way that they act, sometimes I think, like, come on, guys, like I think last game, the game before this one, Felipe, when he went down too easy, like that kind of style.
Oh, when he got his fine.
Yeah. Like that kind of attitude has to come from somewhere. We know Felipe has that in him, but the mass confrontation thing is.
Well, folk don't seem to like
really.
Felipe on other teams, so I don't mind that. It's like, for want of a better word, every team needs a bastard, someone that other teams hate and don't like playing against, and just.
But going back, like, I think in this specific instance in this game, they did feel hard done by the referee, and their response to that, like the mass confrontation after, was just because I think it was unfair
that they were mad at themselves, and it just all boiled over. But then we touched on this last week. Robbo gave an interview with ESPN with Matt Pence on their website. In it, he said, "If I don't use us against them, I wouldn't be doing my job. It's really important to have a good team spirit And that's why we've had the success that we've had. It helps me every day, because how else could I get my players to compete against the types of players they're playing against every week? So he's basically saying, you guys aren't as good as these guys, which obviously they're going to know. They're not Zlatan, they're not David Villa. But what kind of mentality does that give them?
Well, obviously that's led to the success. The playoffs 3 out of 4 years.
That's success.
Wow. It's meeting expectations in terms of the owner's perspective, right? So, I think in one sense it is. Maybe not. You and I would have a different perspective on that, but I think what was said in that article is this is what we've done in the past, and so of course we keep using it. Otherwise, we'd be foolish not to. And personally, I do not think it leads to the players being more aggressive to the referees or whatever.
I think every team needs a little bit of that us against them mentality.
Yeah,
It's how you bring the players together. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Some coaches go overboard with it, like Jose Mourinho.
I don't think it's necessary to go in the media and give a quote like that.
I agree with that. That's kind of a puzzling thing to say, because he is admitting that the quality, there's a disparity in quality.
So this comes back to what I've said before. If you listen to Robbo, if you read between the lines.
But people don't. We do.
Okay.
But the average person reading that.
But that's what we're here to talk about, right?
But the average person reads that and thinks, he's saying his players are crap.
I think some of the players... some of the players don't read between the lines either. I have a feeling.
Well, there's fine lines.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, this points to one of the bigger problems at the football club, is that they are not using all the mechanisms, as we talked in the past, they're not using all the mechanisms to their advantage. They are intentionally not using a couple of them to the fullness of what they could. And therefore, you're not going to have, if you're spent ninth in the spending table, then if you come any higher than ninth, you've outdone yourself, which they did.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way. Don't want to go on too much about the ESPN article. The last two things I'll quickly say about it. One, he also said in it about the Seattle game that if we get into an open football match with them, 9 times out of 10 they're going to beat us. You've got to find ways to get the best way out of your group, and if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to deserve it. We're not going to make it easy, apart from maybe Friday night.
That's almost scandalous to say that.
9 times out of 10 they're going to beat us.
Like 9 times out of 10 is something he says a lot as well. It's like a fine lines, like kind of thing that he says.
For me, 9 out of 10 times means you're an MLS team, and the team that you're playing is almost below USL or something like that.
But
like
I'm going
to League One.
But he's talking about in an open football match as well. So he's not just talking about he's saying if he goes toe to toe, plays attacking, puts in an attacking lineup against KC.
He's saying that he is incapable of having an attacking. That's not true. He sets up the team.
It makes you think he
defensive.
put out that lineup against KC. So we can't play like
this. But when
this.
you look at the options that Schmetzer has, he has far more attacking options to play an open attacking style. At least. And this year they have injuries and problems or whatever. But in general, if you look at what they're spending on their DPs and the roles that they've played in the last, let's say, 3 seasons, this season and the last 2, would you, if you put it into FIFA or whatever, or you put it into, Football Manager, you put it in there, I don't know that he'd be that far off. Maybe it's 3 out of 10 you win. I don't know. But again, I think what he's communicating is maybe not so on the surface.
But a coach can't admit, like, not that he can't admit that publicly, but you should think you should be able to win any game, right? If you have confidence in your ability and confidence in your team, like, you should have an idea, like have a game plan at least, that you could beat any team, right? Like the MLS is quite an even league when it comes down to it. It's not like the Premier League where the Manchester City would devour any team that's in the bottom half. Like, no, I don't think 9 times out of 10 is. Maybe that's just a phrase that he used that was ill-used. But
it's just a bizarre interview.
When you don't have a player that's making more than $1 million on your team, and you're playing against a team that has at least 3 that are over $1.5 million, you don't think that that's a huge discrepancy?
I think with that self-imposed cap that the Caps have, we've gotten Kai Kamara, who, if I would compare him to Clint Dempsey, Clint Dempsey's a better player. But I don't think he's 9 times out of 10 better than Clint Dempsey. Position for position, we're missing an attacking midfielder against Seattle. Like Nicolas Odero is something that the Caps don't have, right?
That's 10 times out of 10.
That is, yeah.
That
but
one
if you look at the back line, back when we had Parker, like, which is the time frame he was talking about, I would have our back line over Chad Marshall, who could barely move anymore, or like their fullbacks were a problem position that time. We had Nerwinski and Harvey as Nerwinski was like 3rd place in Rookie of the Year. You know what I mean?
I totally hear you. But yes. Okay, so are some defensive players maybe better than their defensive players? Their offensive players, I don't think, are as close as you were saying in terms of that number 2 player for Seattle and Kai Kamara. I don't think the gap is that close. Plus, he's not the only player. Like, you talk about Vancouver's missing an attacking midfielder. They have an attacking midfielder on. I forget his salary number from last year, but I'm pretty sure it was over 1.5. It might have been over 2. So that's a huge discrepancy, right? Joe, if you and I were building teams in real life or in, the video games or whatever, right? That would be a crazy thing. If you and I were picking cards to build teams, and I said I want character players over, guys I like over guys I don't like in terms of their style or personality, it gives you a huge advantage, and that's why you beat me. I think this is not apples to apples, not apples to apples, but the discrepancy is more than significant.
But I do agree with Zach that if they had players that are in the $1 million+ range, as long as they fit the team, I think this team would be so much better. In fact, I think it would challenge for a top spot in the West.
But 9 times out of 10. That's
not 9 times out of 10.
Me.
I agree with you. 9 out of 10 times was a bad
Is it fair to say that part is hyperbolic then?
Yes.
Like I said, I think it's just
Certainly
something that
bollocks.
Like I said, I think it's just something that he's used to saying. That he just, while you're trying to fill a gap in a sentence, you say that.
Okay, so Michael, though, if you say it that way and then you win 4 out of 10 and whatever, then isn't that a positive for you? Isn't that a positive? Then you go back to your players and say, look, they spend whatever more than us. They have a bigger, whatever, and yet we beat them 4 times out of 10 in the last 10, and they, tied to and whatever. Like, isn't that? Don't you want to have that, and then it becomes this?
Well, yeah.
As I use hand gestures on radio.
But let's just move on because we've got a lot still to cover in this section. Right, it's not been a great year defensively so far. We're going to look at some stats. I'll give you some. Steve will give you some. We've got 1 win in 6 games now. 1 goal in the last 4 matches. No home goals in the last 200 minutes. We're tied for first in MLS for most goals allowed, 17. We've got the worst goal differential in MLS already at -9.
And that's and the thing I wanted to see was comparison to 2011, because a lot of people said, we're talking about during the week that while 2011 wasn't a great year, there was great entertainment out of that year. That a lot of people had charisma and stuff like that. I was looking at the stats after 8 games. Like you said, there's 8 goals for, 17 goals against this year. Back then, it was 11 goals for, 14 goals against. And the wins, they got 4 results out of the first 7 games. Out of the first 8. It was just 1 win and 3 draws instead of 3 wins and 1 draw like it is this year. So a little bit flop there, but overall, they were always tight games, one goal games, maybe 2 goals games at the worst.
So just for perspective of that, you have to look at the coaches for that, right? Tater played extremely direct football at the time, but he was also, in my opinion, set up to fail.
I agree with that.
And not only in building the squad and overrating things or whatever, but also just in the fact that they only gave him a 1-year deal. It was so if things go bad, we just get rid of him, and that's what they did.
And after he left, the games got a lot worse, a lot more lopsided too.
Yeah.
But if you look at our defence this year, there's no one that you can just automatically point a finger at and said, it's their fault that we've let in so many goals, or there's been too many changes, because it hasn't been. It's been a standard backline. So, I mean, what's behind the defence looking poor? Is it the midfield that's letting them down? Is it marking? Is it just individual errors?
For me, it's the lack of support from the midfield.
Yeah, and
not dropping back enough.
The structure, I don't think the roles are very well defined back there at the moment.
It's hard not to disagree with that in terms of the help from the center of the midfield, right? Like Ali G obviously got into this game. He also struck someone's face, didn't he?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see.
There was a couple of others as well that I thought, like on both teams, and mainly it was the Whitecaps that had their hands up.
But so
in way of surrendering the game?
No, but they. Go ahead, Joe.
I actually mentioned on Twitter, if the Caps got 3 more red cards, they would have gone back to 3-0 because that's when you default after you get 5 reds. So they should have gone
It'd
for
been
that.
better for goal difference.
I wonder if there's a special fine in MLS for doing that, though. But no, it is
get more gam.
They haven't had Ali G, and I know they did in this game, but they haven't had him there.
He will help.
They haven't had him there with Aha and Kendall together, and it doesn't feel like things have gelled together. I think that's a part of the issue, and I agree with you, Steve, in terms of the midfield. It feels like it hasn't sorted out how to best pick up runners or whatever, or support the defenders especially in the middle.
I think that starts and ends with trying to fit Felipe into the team. So I think Tybert was having a good season, and then like Felipe has been crowbarred in there. He should be playing in the attacking midfield, but like the only way we can fit him in there is by dropping one of our defensive midfielders, and because we still want to play Reina, we still want to play whoever else can play in attacking midfield.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem we've been talking about for the last few weeks. But I mean the defence then, do you go with a back 4? Do you risk the 3 and try and get that bedded in? The 2 wing backs gives them 5 if needed.
The unfortunate thing is, I think one of the negatives that comes out of Friday's result and performance is that it feels like the snow game last year, where it's like, oh, they did 3 at the back. Well,
it's just not working for us anytime.
If they do that again, everyone's going to be like, what are you doing? You just got smashed 6-0, right? So it's unfortunate. It feels like that might have died a quick death. And I think that more opportunity or more time should be given to it, and maybe that'll happen in the Voyageurs Cup or something like that. But I think you'll see a back 4. If I was a person who wanted to put my money where my mouth is, I would probably put some money behind.
I'm hoping it's a back 4.
I agree too, but I think if it is a back 3, stop putting De Jong back there as a center back. Better off, like we said earlier, put Gazal as one of the 3 if you're going to do anything.
Henri is ready to go.
Yeah, if he's good to go, then you do that.
Don't mention Henri when Joe's here.
That was a handball, man. I think we should go back to basics. If whatever basics is for Robbo, 4-2-3-1, or like maybe even a 4-4-2 if at home. I think you just have to simplify. Like, I think it's too complicated. Something's obviously not working structurally. Like role wise in the midfield, like I don't think it's very well done. Instead of like trying something completely new, just revert back to something that that works. Maybe even a 4-1-4-1, I think.
Quick yes or no. Do you put Sean Franklin in to get some experience in that back line now? I know Jake's not really done too much wrong, and he's rested now, but do you put Franklin in?
No for me.
I would be okay with it.
I would be as well. So we're split. I actually want to see Franklin for this game against RSL.
Yeah, nothing against Jake.
No, but I just want to see what it's like with Franklin in there to see if it makes a difference. So, last bit of this part. It's a big question which we could talk about for 5 hours. How do you turn things around from here? Now, let's maybe not get into that too much because we don't have enough time to do that. But 4 of the next 6 games are at home. They're massive. RSL feels massive. Robbo said on the radio that no player should be surprised if they don't start this game against RSL. What do you do? How do you turn this around quickly? Because they have to. They cannot lose on Friday.
We know 2 players that won't start.
Yes.
I think, like I said, I think you go for 4-2-3-1.
Let's get back to the basics.
Yeah, get attacking players on the field.
What he knows.
Yeah, and I think Blundell should play.
For sure.
I think he will play anyway because he's probably our highest ranked striker.
I think probably gonna have
but I think he could be the one that gets us out of this slump if he hits a rich vein of form. He hasn't been given a real chance, really.
Yeah. I say backline, same with Nowinski coming back. I say Gazal and Tybert in front of them, stuff like that. Put Davies back at left back, or maybe as the number 10. Mix it up.
Yeah, in terms of the short term with players and what we have here right now, I think getting back to 4-2-3-1 because most of these players have played a lot of it in their time in Vancouver, and so I think that will really help. I think they're going to bring in Christian Teixeira for sure. I think on one side, and I think
he was rested.
Yeah, and because he'll connect well with I think with Anthony as well.
Yeah,
and
who do you have as the 10?
Well, that's a big problem. I
It's
think
gonna
it's
have
gonna
to be Felipe.
and not Nico Mosqueda. I know this is probably not on the radar, but I would love to see, and this might just cause bigger problems or whatever if things go bad. But I would love to see I think Russell probably will start, but I want to see Dave Norman play so bad.
I thought you were going to say just put Simon Collin in there because we haven't even got time to talk about that this week. But
not yet. Not yet.
He's been impressing me at training.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the young man, both on and off the field.
We'll do that next week.
And we'll go over all that in the preview podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to step on your toes too much. Definitely check out the preview podcast. Be out probably Wednesday night, Thursday morning again. These Friday games are killing us trying to get 2 shows out in a good time to let everyone hear it. But we'll be back with more non-Whitecaps chat you'll be glad to hear after this.
Hey, I'm Brett Levis, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Sunshine on a rainy day makes me wanna move away. I think I've got it sorted. I'm gonna get myself deported. I'm considering a move to LA. He's considering a move to LA. I'm considering a move to LA. He's considering a move to LA. I'm considering a move to LA. He's considering a move to LA.
Welcome back. You are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. Art Brute there with Moving to LA. I was going to play that song last week since we played LA, but then I went for Art Brute's Bad Weekend instead, and I thought they didn't have one called Badder Weekend. They did have one called Good Weekend that I thought was going to be fun because I was going to play that this week, but that hasn't happened.
Might be waiting a while for that song, I think.
Yeah, but we're going to do something now, which we do in the preview show. We're going to play a game which Joe came up with. Do you know who I am? Yes, do you know who I am? I have been wanting to play this since I've been listening to these preview podcasts.
I know the answer. I'm ready. I was ready.
Joe never gets to play this because he hosts it, so now he gets to take part.
But now my reputation, I keep telling the lads, I'll do so much better than you guys. But now
he has one own goal this year. He's got a victory.
It's an own goal by them because it was Marco Donadell. For God's sake.
That was one of the easiest ones you've done this year.
So for anyone that hasn't listened to the preview podcast, why not? But what we do is we're going to read you 6 or 7 clues about a player. This player will be in MLS. He's a current MLS player. And if anyone knows the answer, they can say stop and guess. But you can only guess once for each clue, so you can't have multiple guesses. So we'll kick things off with question 1, clue 1.
Can you cover your paper?
Well, it's not going to help you. Oh. Clue 1. I was born on March 1st, 1992. Clue 2. I played my youth football for Barcelona SC.
Wait, go ahead. Do you get one guess per clue?
Yes. You don't have to, but you can. So you can guess after every clue if you
Stop.
Okay.
I forget his first name, but Vasquez in Toronto?
I was going to say that.
No.
Oh, okay, good thing I didn't say it.
Don't think you listened properly to what I said there.
Yeah, he's too young.
Clue 3. This is my 8th season in Major League Soccer.
I don't know anybody.
This is great. I love this.
Oh yeah, dead air. Good
I
stuff.
I hate being on this side.
The bright lights.
Clue 4. I have made 178 MLS appearances, scoring 44 goals for the 2 clubs I have played with.
I don't got this at all.
144 midfielder, maybe?
Well, that could be a striker in MLS too.
Josie Altidore in Sunderland.
Okay, clue 5. I'm getting further than you do with yours.
Well, you have 7 clues, right?
Yes. I have 4 caps for my non-CONCACAF national team, the last of which was in 2014.
Oh, man. I'm not very good at this.
You're exposing us for having no knowledge.
25, 26.
I don't even have a guess. I don't even have a ballpark.
I know, this is great. Clue 6. I won the Voyagers Cup in 2011 and 2012. So that should give you an idea of who he was with in those years.
No, I don't remember who won those years.
Give you a clue. It wasn't us.
I know who it was, but I'm trying to think who.
Barcelona SC, so it's not Barcelona.
And he's a current player.
Yeah, I see you've picked up on that.
He's a current player too, right?
There's some Barcelonas in South America.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I don't remember who was on.
Okay, this is the one, the last clue, and you should get it from this. I thought.
Doubt it.
Wait, who scored that many?
I am known to some as a cap killer.
Okay, he's played from Montreal and one other club.
Stop Felipe?
No.
Oh.
You said he's played for 2 clubs in MLS, right?
Yes.
Okay, that takes out Felipe. He's 3.
Yeah, and he's Montreal.
Ah, this is so easy to get a point.
Montreal and one other club. Hang on.
Yeah,
Who scored goals for Montreal?
I don't
There's
know.
only like a few guys I can think of.
No idea why you're going on about Montreal.
No, TFC won in 2011.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay.
Wait.
Do I get a point for knowing TFC won in
Maybe.
2011?
No, hang on.
We're overrunning, man, as it is.
No, this is over.
Toronto.
I'm going to give you 1/8 clue, but you're not going to... If you get it, it doesn't matter. The Caps will face him, maybe, on Friday.
Oh, I know.
Plata.
Yeah.
Yes, because Barcelona SC is an Ecuadorian youth club.
So João Plata.
Yeah. I just love that song. That's why I wanted to play it. It's a dance remix from a road rage incident that went viral in the UK. So now, it's time for our MLS Weekend Review. So we'll go over very quickly because we are overrun. I'll kind of rattle through this. If you thought last weekend was a bad one for the Whitecaps,
Yeah, worse.
this weekend was worse. All 12 teams in the West were in action. There was wins for KC, LAFC, Houston, Dallas, RSL, Seattle, Portland. Caps, San Jose, Galaxy, Colorado, Minnesota lost.
Yeah.
Caps were now down to 6th in the standings, but worryingly for me, on points per game, they're 8th.
Because I think they played the most out of everybody.
Yeah,
or
them and
maybe
KC's.
Columbus, I think, too.
KC's got 8 as well. I don't know, these guys are making jokes amongst themselves.
Chris was playing along with Do You Know Who I Am? And he guessed around 8 players before.
Oh, I didn't have my phone.
Seeing that made me feel a little bit better.
Okay. Montreal. Well, actually, was that a good weekend for Canadian clubs?
No, it wasn't.
16 goals given up between us. We led, though, number 1 again.
It was
number
awful.
1 in Canada.
I mean,
It was 16-4 in aggregate.
Toronto, you understand because they got
Yeah.
a more important match in midweek. But
Which I'm still mad about, which will come to
Montreal, man, they had the lead, and they had not.
I think it was 3-1 at the half, or 3-2.
But they had not. Was it
3-1
Was
at
it
the half,
Cabrera
yeah.
who got sent off?
I can't remember,
I
actually.
think it was Cabrera.
It was the last man foul.
LAFC, though, continuing to be entertaining and horrible in defence at the same time.
Yeah.
Quick question about penalty. Yeah, I thought they changed the rule so that if it's a
If you make no attempt to play the ball, it is still a red card.
Yeah.
So that's.
If
I didn't actually see the
if
tackle.
you've stopped a goal scoring opportunity and made no attempt, it is a red.
And I think if I remember, he did try to tackle him. He wasn't really playing the ball at all.
But first half Piatti hat-trick. LA should had it should be 3-3 because they missed a penalty.
Yeah.
Arena missed that, and then Vela had an open goal basically that he missed a sitter.
Yeah.
12 goals conceded in 6 halves of football though by LAFC. None to us in the 2 that they played against us, of course, but we barely even tested that defence. Simon scored for LA
That was
nice.
Emotional,
Goal.
lovely
Nice.
goal and emotional for the.
A humdinger.
Really happy for him. And if you noticed, he ran over to kind of celebrate with Marc Dos Santos.
Was that who it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him pointing at somebody.
I saw him hug someone. I was like, who is that?
Great turnaround in the second half. Goals from Benny Feilhaber, an own goal, 2 in the last 7 minutes from Vela, and then Latif Blessing. Great win.
Some of those goals were like one was off the bar and then another post, and they were like hit so many posts in that game too.
Everyone talked about how good the Caps have been on the road, but the last 2 matches may have shown otherwise. But LAFC, 4 wins out of their first 6. That's impressive, especially for a new team.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's down to Bob. Well, I mean, some of their players, like Vela, but Bob Bradley, I think, has done a lot of things right.
And I also want to say Marc Dos Santos as well, because we never got a chance to play this last week because we were overrunning. We are overrunning this week, but I'm still going to play it. I got a chance to speak to Marc Dos Santos after the LAFC game last Friday, so let's just bring you that for you now. So Marc, obviously back in Canada, went with LA today. First of all, just this match, how did it feel to you being here in MLS, in Canada, and getting a win?
It's Vancouver is a place that I have good memories for different reasons, right? It's a place with a lot of history, at least for me as a coach, that I went through a lot of things here in Vancouver. Of course, in the times of the impact, and so coming back here, it was special. Anytime I think I'm gonna go with the team to a Canadian club, it's gonna be something special for me. And I think, overall, I think I'd leave it to Bob to talk about the game. But I think it's a game that was under control, and a game that we deserved the 3 points.
Now, you've had an amazing whirlwind of a managerial career the last couple of seasons. USL final, NASL final. What made you then decide that MLS was the place for you?
So after winning the USL final with the Impact and losing the NASL final with Ottawa, it was almost an obsession for me to win the NASL. I wanted to win those both leagues somehow. And after doing it with San Francisco, when I went to San Francisco, I wanted to stay there for the full 3 seasons of contract. I didn't have intentions of leaving, but then things happened, with ownership group, and I had to leave, and it was good to leave finally winning the NASL and against the Cosmos. And then when Bob called me and the opportunity came to finally be around an MLS club, I just thought naturally it was the next step in the career before something else. Who knows,
And like that year in San Francisco, towards the end, it must have been so bizarre and unsettling because you just didn't know what was happening with the team. It looked like the writing was on the wall, but as a coach, how did you focus the players for that final?
Like I always preached with the players that we have to be the best we can today. And the only thing we would be able to control was the day-to-day work. And if we would be able to win the league or do something big, everybody would get valued. And that's the focus I was on with the players every day. We were able to keep everybody on the same page, motivated, and then it became a little bit of the world against us. And we said, if we're going to get out of this, we're going to get out beating New York Cosmos. So at the end of the day, after beating the Cosmos in a stadium that had 13,000 people, I just felt, this club is going to leave, but it's going to leave with the impression of a special night for always that's going to stay in the city of San Francisco when it comes to soccer.
Coming to LA, it's an expansion team, but in a lot of ways it doesn't feel like an expansion team. Mm-hmm. How have you found these first sort of 6 weeks with the team?
Yeah, but I think Bob has a very clear vision with the staff where he makes everybody feel important. Everybody's part of the group. Everybody has an important role. Nobody's bigger than anybody. There's no ego. And it creates a family environment. Like I said before, in LA, the club, everybody has a very big heart, a very good heart. So because of that, I think it made everything easier.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time and good luck the rest of the season.
Nice
Thanks,
to
Marc.
see you again.
Thanks, you too.
Nice to see you again.
I wanna live in Los Angeles.
That was Marc Dos Santos there. I really enjoyed having a chat with him after the game last week. Just going to rattle through the rest of the stuff here, so we won't do a lot of talking, just me kind of going over what happened in the week. I'll throw a few things your way, though. Houston 5, TFC 1.
Totally expected.
Now,
well, not the scoreline.
This one we will talk about, because this is a match that should never have been played. I said this last week. It's ridiculous not to order Houston to cancel this. They had a special family day or something planned. It's like...
No, it's not that. I mean, well, it probably isn't part that. But it's... Why would you... If you're Houston, why would you...
Oh, no, I get why they wouldn't do it, but it should have been mandated by MLS.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate TFC. I don't want them to win the CCL, but it's what it does to us. Because that's 2 games now that Western potential playoff contenders for the Whitecaps have got 3 points.
Well, it's not
3
even
easy points.
It's not even 3 points. It's it seems like it's awoken those teams that have played them, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, TFC looked like they were maybe going to make a bit of a battle of it in the first half, but...
The offside goal that got called back.
It was nice, that was a nice header.
Yeah, but it was a legit offside goal.
It was pretty one-way traffic. It wouldn't go
got it right.
through the scorers, but...
Sorry, I forgot. Last week it didn't ignite Colorado because they were awful this week.
Well, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
I mean, they had just cause to be awful this week, but I just think it's terrible and it hits the Caps hard. TFC as well, bottom of the East, 6 back of the playoff spots, which they'll make up. I mean, that's fine, but they're 14 off New York City, 13 off Atlanta. That's not so easy to make up, even with the games in hand.
But when you get into the playoffs, anything can happen.
But you want your home field advantage. It could stop them hosting an MLS Cup, etc., etc., etc.
You can't talk about this early part of the season for Toronto until Wednesday night, because if they win the CONCACAF Champions League, it almost doesn't matter.
Do you think they will? Have they blown it? I think they've blown it.
I think Chivas will play way more disciplined than any of the other teams because they don't have to let stuff go through.
Well, obviously the Goats have the upper hand in both the scoreline and the fact that they're playing at home. But I think that Toronto could do it, especially if they score that first goal. Especially if it's in the first half.
First goal's massive.
Yeah. But the first goal is massive. But
in a way, because they could still win.
I think the first goal is far more massive if Toronto scores it.
And it goes straight to penalties as well, no extra time.
Yeah, why is that?
That makes no sense.
That's like, is this a preseason tournament? Is this the All-Star game?
Go extra time.
It's the road to the FIFA Club World Cup. That's what it is. I think they've blown it. But if any team could overturn it, like Chivas aren't doing great either.
Well, they've shown that they can win in Mexico now. Or get results of some kind.
If anyone can overturn it, Joe, it's some team that spends exponentially more money on their squad than anyone else in their league.
Let's not get into that argument. But I've had enough of it on Twitter.
Don't they spend less than Mexico? The Mexican teams though, still, even despite how much they spend, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's a good question. Steve.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That's
about
for another week.
Okay.
Wait, Josie Altidore is not good, right? Like he's not great. He missed so many chances. Yeah, sometimes.
But he gets so many chances that even if he misses, he still gets enough.
2 great chances in that Chivas game.
Yeah.
And he just bottled it.
So let's rattle through the rest of the results. Orlando 3, San Jose 2.
Almost gave up. Orlando almost gave up the win there.
3-0 to Orlando at one point, and by the 69th minute, and then 2 goals from Florian Jungwirth.
Yeah, when San Jose scored that goal, they showed Jason Kreis, and he gave a look back to the bench going, what's going on here?
They've been giving up late goals left, right and centre. Dallas 2, Philly 0. Dallas
obvious.
Now the only undefeated team left in MLS, up to second in the West. Second half PK from Mauro Diaz and Maxi Urruti. Rounded the keeper, nice little finish as well, got the 3 points.
Wait, you can score after rounding the keeper?
Apparently you can. I think they need to play this to Yordi on a loop.
I'm just
RSL 3, Colorado 0. Rocky Mountain Cup. 5th biggest rivalry in MLS, possibly? I don't know. Tim Howard was sent off for handling outside the box, which I still think looks like it hit his chest.
But it wasn't.
VAR didn't overturn it.
No, remember, it's not clear and obvious. It's not going to get overturned. And the referee went to the assistant, and the assistant said yes, he handled it outside.
But the referee was Joseph Dickerson, only his 2nd game in charge. I just went to say the name Dickerson.
I knew you.
Can't trust a man called Joseph.
But they brought in Zach. They did bring Zach McMathon, who's a capable MLS goalkeeper.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, he did well, and he held him at bay till, 82nd minute was when the penalty went in. It was given about the 79th. So the 10 men held out really well.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it was a VAR penalty, and then there was another 2 goals in quick after that.
Yeah.
What was the word I was looking for there?
Quick succession.
Succession. I was going to say concession. That's just the Whitecaps. I'm just so used to that.
Condone.
Don't use the concession.
Positive for the Caps. RSL did not look great against 10 men. And they didn't look great beating us 2-1.
What about 9? 9 men?
11. They've beat us with 11. Didn't look great against 10, so maybe 9 is the way to go with this.
9 should also be great for the siege mentality, shouldn't it?
Us against them, certainly. LA Galaxy got beat by Atlanta 2-0. Nice little win for Atlanta. Joseph Martinez missed a penalty, hit a post, and then he opened the scoring.
What did you say about trusting people, Dave?
Excellent road performance from Atlanta. I mean, they've been great on the road as well. They've been great all season.
But the last goal wasn't to death. And
Yeah,
so it was really a 1-0.
minute.
It was a 1-0 win.
Where was Latin? Did nothing.
Well, Atlantis had sent out a tweet, "Dear LA, you're welcome." Atlanta FC or something like that.
Today, 2 games. Seattle 3, Minnesota 1. Portland 3, New York City 0. 2 comfortable wins for our Cascadian rivals. Horrible.
Yeah, it's too bad. You know, Toronto, Montreal, lost yesterday. And so you were hoping going into this to help take the edge off the weekend that the Cascadian side would lose, but they weren't having it.
Dempsey was benched. Came on and got an assist, but he was still benched.
Rested. He was probably
rested. And then Addy didn't play at all. He was on the bench, and for the first time since being in Portland, did not come on.
Yeah.
Made up for it with getting a goal today. 2 goals in about 2 minutes for Portland in that first half.
Clint, they were easing him in after his suspension. They didn't want him on too long to see any red mist.
But that was the Western teams in MLS this week, and we will be back with more chat after this.
Hey, it's Marco Bustos. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio. Part 5. The final part. But my favourite time of the show, it's Wavelength time. This is a song that references lots of football stuff in it. How many songs are you going to hear on Vancouver radio or any radio that mentions Standard Liège, for example? And we're kind of continuing our Panini sticker theme as well. There's a bit later on in the song about getting multiples in a pack. I won't spoil it though. This is a song from 2014.
Is this from packs from Shoppers Drug Mart?
Could be, or London Drugs, or wherever you may get your packs of.
No, I'm talking about
stickers.
the Whitecaps.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, yeah, the guy in the song, if he got what I got, he'd be even more furious than in the song. This is a song from 2014, from our favourite band on the show, Half Man Half Biscuit, from their album Urge for Awful, and this one's For Now.
Dig a big hole, and I cheer for a corner. I don't know why they rarely lead to a goal. The greatest surface underfoot is springy turf. Why does the winner of Mr. Universe always come from Earth? I feel I should be more upset since she went to live in Delft. I should be writing songs about you, but I'm too wrapped up in myself. At DFS, a job I have landed, but I don't get paid for the first 5 years. TNS in the blob mob handed, according to what one hears. Outlandish rumour is my sport, oh yay, but just seen Vingloss in Rock Ferry buying energy drinks. He's defo taking over. God knows I've tried to put you into verse, but unfortunately to a boil on the cab driver's neck again.
Half Man Half Biscuit there, this one's for now, from the 2014 album Urge for Awful. And there is nothing more awful, although this was OFFAL, there's nothing more awful than getting multiple stickers in your Panini pack. It drives me nuts. And Panini stickers, we haven't brought back our swap shop section. Oh no, it's the chip shop sauce again. Swap shop section. And we'll bring that back soon, but folk have been having trouble initially getting their Panini stickers. They do seem in stock now. Steve, you saw them.
I located some in London Drugs on Scott Road.
So there'll be loads going around.
And then those are the cheaper ones. I was at a Toys R Us.
And told me this.
And I saw the stickers. I go, well, let's see how much this is. It was $2 a pack.
They used to be
for 5 stickers.
You used to get 7 for $1. When I was a lad, you got 7 for 20p.
And you poo-pooed that article we talked about, how much it was going to cost.
I'm still going to buy them. Anyway, it's time now for BC Soccer Web Headlines. BC Soccer Web Headlines is brought to you in partnership with bcsoccerweb.com, your one-stop site for local, national and international news and links. Make it part of your everyday routine. Check out bcsoccerweb.com. What's been catching your eye on the site this week, Steve?
Couple of follow-up articles. First of all, European leagues oppose plan for a 48-team 2022 World Cup 4 years earlier than what they want.
Well, considering it's getting played in December, no wonder.
South America was going for it, but then that's the thing. They don't want to change the calendar. They've already. There's going to be a lot of stoppages, especially for the Premier League in England. Other leagues usually have a break, but they don't. So there'll be a big break there, so they don't want to extend it anymore. Little close to home for Michael, AFC Wimbledon. The EFL has dropped charges after club refused to use the MK Dons full name.
Yes, which was absolutely ridiculous.
Here. That's good.
I mean, they didn't call them Scum FC, which I would have done.
Yeah.
I think they called them Milton Keynes on the program, if I'm not mistaken, and then they called them MK on the scoreboard, and that's what the issue was.
Yeah.
Like, there's a club who said, "Oh, we know we could face issues for this, but we're going to do it anyways."
Yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
And
kudos to Wimbledon.
They're above them in the standings too at this point.
Yeah,
right?
it looks like MK's definitely going down, which is great. It's Wimbledon's safe just now, but there's 4 games left. They've still got to play the league leaders. Might actually just be 3 games left now. I got up at 7 to watch the game on Saturday. Most of this season, when I've got up to watch their games, they haven't won. I think I've seen them win once. So maybe I should just stay in bed for the rest of the season.
You're not that superstitious, are you, Michael?
I'm starting to for this. I want them to stay up and MK to go down. It'd be fantastic.
Oh,
Plus, I've got a Half Man Half Biscuit song for when they do.
The supporters would celebrate almost like they won a cup or the league or something.
Yeah.
Pitch invasion.
That's success.
So a couple of news articles about the upcoming 2018 World Cup. FIFA charges the host Russia over racist slurs against black French players. But on a positive note, Russian prosecutors have revealed that they have disrupted a plot by a right-wing football supporters group called Toys. I looked it up. I couldn't find what it stood for. Toys, so I don't know exactly.
TOYS?
Yeah, TOYS. It stood for something, but I don't know what. But it's a right-wing leading kind of supporters group. There was a city somewhere, I can't remember what it was, but they were going to disrupt the games there. I don't know how. They didn't go into too much detail either. But it's interesting that they try to spin it a little bit with the charges coming at them.
Your kids are going to look at your browser history and think they're in for lots of presents.
Yeah, seems like it. That's a good point. I was going to say something else, but you might.
I was going to go down.
You would have had to cut it out.
Yeah.
Strange incident with VAR in the Bundesliga. It was a game between Mainz 05 and Freiburg. A penalty was awarded just before halftime. Now the problem was when the penalty was officially awarded, both clubs were in the dressing room.
Yeah,
and they had to bring all the players back in order to take care of the penalty.
Yeah, the first problem is this game was on a Monday, and in Germany, as we talked about in the past, there's huge frustration over the fact that there's these 5 games in the season on Monday, And so the fans they had a protest for that, and then which delayed the game like 10 minutes or whatever. And then this happened, and that was in the second half, and this delayed. It was a crazy night.
And this led to a technicality coming out about VAR that you can do that at halftime, but at full time you can't bring it back. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So if the same thing happened at the end of the game, there wouldn't have been a penalty. So
is it the final whistle that stops it?
Or after the final whistle, you can't do any VAR.
Oh.
And halftime you can. So that was the.
You would think it would be more important at the full time if something happened like that. You had to review, but oh well, we'll see what happens at the World Cup. Red Bulls 2 signed PDL into the PDL. Their Lucas Stoffer, former draft pick, wingback.
Very, very pleased that Lucas has found a club.
I'm surprised they didn't sign him and put him in Fresno at all. That's
surprising. Who knows if they did? Do we know if they tried that or not?
Yeah, they didn't.
Okay, so they just didn't rate him enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, they like Justin Fittis more, and maybe Brett Levis more too.
Yeah, we've got our extra podcast coming out this week, and it's going to be a PDL special. And I've got a big chat with Lucas in it about playing in the PDL. So, actually, I thought it was terrible. He's left now. It wasn't going to be relevant. I can tie it in.
Was it like one of your favorite interviews?
Definitely one of my favorites.
Okay.
A couple of stadium things. One team that's currently in MLS, one team that's hopefully wants to be in MLS. First of all, the one that's in New York City FC have a plan for a stadium in the Harlem River Yards. They're expecting 26,000 capacity by 2022. Now, because it's in Harlem, they're going to have to deal with the boppers. Other than that, if you've seen the Warriors movie, you'll know what I'm talking about.
So it's not in Harlem. It's not in Harlem.
All-time movies.
I'm just because it's called Harlem.
I was wondering if the supporters group would call themselves the Harlem Heat.
No, that'd be interesting.
It's not. Again, it's in Manhattan. Have you seen the pictures?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're nice pictures.
Yeah.
MLS expansion hopeful Cincinnati have received city council approval for their stadium.
Just
5-4 margin. There's still some conditions they've like promised to improve the community around them and stuff like that. I don't know what that entails, but they got what they're looking for by the skin of the teeth.
So one of the things that came out of this is one of the counselors, I think, referred to him. I don't know if it was orally or in writing or whatever, that they're going to be called Fußball Club Cincinnati. Because of their huge German population, which obviously has been met with great derision and great concern by many across the North American landscape. Yeah. Some saying it's even worse than Royal Salt Lake. Sorry, Real Salt Lake.
Is it worse than 1904 FC?
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah.
Is it worse?
Well, I forget what I was trying. What is the 1904?
SD.
And this is why we're over.
What does the 1904?
It stands for the letters in the alphabet.
Oh yeah, no, that to me that's worse.
Yeah,
to me that's worse. But to me, if that's what it's, everyone's going to call it FC Cincinnati anyway.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not as bad as some of the other ones. But I understand why people are annoyed that it seems that they're focusing on one ethnic group or whatever. Then yeah.
Okay, so going on now to the World Cup in 2026, the voting that's going to come up. South America has come to the rescue of the United bid. They are pledging.
There's only 10 votes.
I know, but that's every vote counts. 10 votes.
It's going to be tight.
It's 10 votes that they've all agreed to support them in this next voting. But on the other side, we talked about France last week. South Africa has backed Morocco for their hosting,
which is funny because they, of course, Morocco went against them in 2010.
Yeah.
So,
but there is in the article it suggested a reasoning why. Apparently, South Africa is being investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice for a $10 million payment to FIFA voters in North America.
Well, specifically to Jack Warner.
Yeah.
Have you watched?
But they never announced the people that were being. There's apparently 2 people, unnamed people, that are being investigated.
Well, the crazy thing is that Morocco supposedly paid $1 million to Jack Warner as well. Have you ever watched?
With Jack Warner?
Have you ever watched Planet Football on Netflix? You should go watch.
I watched Planet of the Apes.
It's in French, but with subtitles. It's a really, really good documentary.
What I recommend,
I'm surprised you haven't seen it, Joe.
What I recommend is watching the back and forth between Jack Warner and John Oliver.
Yes.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
nothing wrong with Jack.
I think the payments were to Jack Warner's cats, who owned an apartment.
No, that's Chuck Glazer. Never confuse Chuck Glazer and Jack Warner.
Jack Warner is one who went to the emergency room to get out of being arrested, and then was seen at a rally later dancing.
Possibly. That sounds more like Jack
The
Warner.
mittens are off. The John Oliver thing was right. The mittens are off.
Yeah, something like that.
And as I always say, he brought 3 Trinidad players to East Fife. There's nothing wrong with Jack Warner.
Another issue that's come up with Morocco.
This is more concerning.
And this is this is not external. This is internal. People criticizing Morocco. They have anti-LGBTQ laws that were omitted from their own self-assessment risk program because it's against the law to be that in there. And also animal rights. There's a stray dog policy where they don't humanely get rid of stray dogs. There's a video apparently where they get the dogs together and just shoot them. That's a couple things that are brought up, and they're saying that, especially the first one, because they didn't put that in the risk assessment, that's going to be a strike against them somewhere for the people that are.
If you have a certain number of strikes against you or something, you're out.
Yeah,
you have to get 2 out of 5.
A score. Yeah. So that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Last but not least, in Canada for the CPL, Clark Stadium came into play in Edmonton. It seems like there is discussion about Clark Stadium. We talked about last week about expanding and everything. There was some backlash from the CFL team, the Eskimos, where they want, because they have a lease on it until 2021. They pay, I think, $1 million a year as a practice facility when their own stadium is not available due to concerts or other stuff. So they're kind of, I think this is more of a negotiation ploy, so they don't lose access to it while this all stuff is going on.
I think also too, part of it is the minor football in Edmonton is obviously against this because that's I don't know if it's the only place, but it's one of the primary places for them to use. And so I think Edmonton, the Eskimos were kind of trying to be supportive of that because they do, actually the Eskimos do have a positive relationship with FC Edmonton.
Yeah, for sure.
So hopefully that can all get sorted out. From what I understood, the council meeting last week was fairly positive in terms of FC Edmonton.
We ran into softball here in U West, so at least FC Edmonton's running into some decent sport.
Yeah, no, you ran into like straight up politics.
No offense to softball
politics
players.
in New West is what ultimately stopped
Yeah,
that.
I know that.
And the Whitecaps' way of operating in terms of money.
Yeah, would we still have had a USL team if we ended up in New West?
I think
That's for another show
so.
before we go off for another 2 hours. But that is it for this week's show. Just before we go, just let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat.
It's at Zachary AM, and I'm a part of the Movement Curva Collective.
And you can find me at Joe DC Van and on the preview show.
And watch out for the preview show coming out on Wednesday evening or Thursday morning. Check your podcast feeds for that. I'm Michael McCaw. You can follow me on AFTN Canada on Twitter. AFTN.ca is our website. And AFTN Soccer is our Instagram account. You can also follow us on Facebook as well. And if you've liked the show or if you enjoy the show, leave a nice little review or rating on iTunes for us. But until next week, which will hopefully be happier. Anyway, until next time, thanks for listening. Take care and mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
More than a name, that's what we
AFTN.